I'd like to call the meeting, the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Judiciary to order. I want to welcome everyone for coming in today. We have important agenda item I'd love for everyone to learn more about, and so we'll get things kicked off. Clerk, please take the attendance.
Chair Wilson.
Present.
Representatives Weiss.
Here.
Brixey.
Here.
Menser.
Here.
Morgan.
Here.
Leitner.
Here.
Cavett.
Here.
Schutte.
Here.
Mr. Chair, quorum.
Thank you. Representative Weiss moves to approve the minutes from the subcommittee meeting held on March 6, 2024. Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted. Today I'd like to welcome via Zoom Judge Reeds and Judge McGinnis, and then here present in our committee room, Judge Meinecke. So I'd like to bring forth the Honorable Judge Meinecke from the 44th District Court for his presentation. And you can go ahead and start whenever you're ready, Judge.
Yes.
So do we have a hot mic now? Yeah. All right, great. Okay. All right. Good morning. My name is Judge Derek Meinecke. I am the Chief Judge of the 44th District Court, serving the communities of Royal Oak and Berkeley. I want to thank Chairperson Wilson and the entire committee for the opportunity to share my experiences about our program, Operation Drive. Now, Operation Drive is a one-of-a-kind program, and I presented a couple handouts for your review. But basically, it's a program that assists individuals who come into our court with traffic misdemeanors restore their license and become legal drivers. Now, the origin of this program really started at the time that I took the bench back in 2013. And at that time, we did our misdemeanor arraignments on Thursday afternoons. And as you can imagine, with the communities of Royal Oak and Berkeley, and significant traffic arteries like 696, 75, and Woodward, our court sees a significant number of traffic misdemeanors. So it didn't take long for me to notice a disturbing trend. So during this Thursday afternoon docket, what I was noticing was that 85 to 90% of the individuals sitting in my courtroom were African American. And that seemed to me to be an obvious problem. As I dug deeper, what was revealed was a systemic issue in the Metro Detroit region, and as I've later discovered, a statewide reality of inequality in the area of transportation. So recognizing this, the 44th District Court staff and I decided that we were no longer going to be part of the problem, but instead be part of the solution. And that's the beginning, the origin genesis of our Operation Drive program. Now, is this a problem, this large number of individuals across our state that are unlicensed? Is this a problem that requires a unique program at a court? Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, we utilize a problem-solving court approach because if you really look at it, we are a problem-solving court. The National Institute of Justice describes problem-solving courts in this fashion. Courts designed to stop crime by treating substance abuse disorders or other serious problems underlying criminal conduct. Implicit in this designation is a broad recognition among justice stakeholders that traditional criminal courts, rooted in adversarial prosecution and punishment, were not working for certain classes of those who commit crimes, their victims, or society at large. Now compare that description of a problem-solving court with these findings in the 2018 Michigan Joint Task Force on Jail and Pretrial Incarceration as described in an article from the Wayne State University Center for Behavioral Health and Justice. In its final report, the Joint Task Force found that traffic offenses accounted for half of all criminal court cases in 2018, with driving without a valid license the third most common reason people went to jail. As a result, one of the final recommendations of the task force was to stop suspending licenses and revoking licenses for actions unrelated to safe driving and to reclassify most traffic offenses and other minor misdemeanors as civil rather than criminal infractions. To put this into context, according to the task force report, a driver's license can be suspended for a wide variety of reasons, many unrelated to safety, such as failing to appear in court or conviction for a controlled substance offense. In 2018, nearly 358,000 licenses were suspended for failure to appear and failure to pay fines and fees. Those suspensions could lead to arrest or jail if an individual does not appear in court, fully pay fines or fees, or meet any other court conditions. So let's go back to that description of a problem-solving court. Serious problem underlying criminal conduct. The number of citizens in our state who are unlicensed or have suspended licenses who find themselves entangled in the criminal justice system, who other than traffic offenses or traffic issues would otherwise have no involvement in the court system whatsoever, that's a serious problem that is underlying criminal conduct. Further, when you take a look at the traditional approach, not working for those classes of individuals who commit these crimes or for society at large, the traditional approach, high fines and costs, jail sentences, limited plea bargains, lack of explanation of collateral consequences when taking a plea. I mean, that's a big issue right there. If you walk in and you offer a plea in a case and the judge doesn't tell you that by virtue of this plea that you've just entered, you have extended your suspension another year, or you're going to lose your license for 30 days, or it's going to cause you to be revoked. This, frankly, just hasn't been happening. And so all of this has created a revolving door that even aggressive legislation, and I am so deeply appreciative of the work that's been done over the last 6 years by this body. 2018, ending driver responsibility fees, made my job easier, thank you. 2021, reducing the number of offenses that suspend a license, again, made my job easier, thank you. But even these aggressive actions cannot solve the fundamental issue of the number of people in our community that don't have licenses and still end up finding themselves in the court system. This work actually needs to be done on the front lines. And where does that exist? At the district court, home to the traffic misdemeanor. I mean, there might be every once in a while, a unicorn traffic misdemeanor that gets attached to a felony that works its way up to circuit court, but we are the home to the traffic misdemeanor. We are the ones who have the ability to address that conduct where it happens and deal with the individuals one-on-one and work to reduce this problem in a significant way. We are in an advantageous position to respond swiftly, comprehensively, so that today's driving while license suspended doesn't graduate to a fleeing and looting or a resisting police or some serious accident because we have an individual who's not properly licensed and actually doesn't feel the value or the sense of the benefit of having a license. So how does Operation Drive work? Okay, so there are several key ingredients. All right, you need to have a shared vision at the court. So from our magistrates who have that initial interaction, to our criminal clerks who do all of the docketing, the judicial staff who works with the attorneys that are so crucial to this program, court administration who reaches out to other courts to make sure that we can streamline processes and get proper information for individuals in our program, and then the judges. We all have to be on the same page that this is a mission of this court. And then you need informed and cooperative stakeholders. So that means we have to go to the prosecutors and to the funding units and say, hey, the way we've been doing things before wasn't working. And this is going to be a situation where, one, the community is still, obviously the safety of the community, safe roadways is absolutely a priority and a function of our court. But there's a way that's been handling these cases in the past that just hasn't worked. So you've got to go to these stakeholders, and we've had great success with that. And then you need MIDC specially trained attorneys that have not just the training but also the passion, because there's a lot that's expected of these individuals who then go out and work with our participants. So those are the basic raw ingredients. Now, how it works from the time somebody gets ticketed. So say somebody gets a ticket in our jurisdiction for a driving while license suspended, or they get apprehended for an old warrant for failing to appear on a driving while license suspended or no license case. So that's going to, from the moment that person finds their way into our court, they're going to be sort of identified as someone who could be in a participant in our Operation Drive program. It does not mean that the person isn't allotted their full and fair opportunity to contest the charge, presumption of innocence, all of those things, but we at least get the ball rolling and say, hey, if this ends up being a plea or some type of resolution, this is somebody who we're going to want to work with to help them get their license back. Because if they get their license back, then they're not in the court system anymore, period. And that's the goal. Now, from the point that they meet with the magistrate, they're usually given a personal bond, all right, and then given the chance to participate in court remotely. Now, we're a hybrid court because I do believe that there is an importance to having both court hearings in person and remote. Well, it just so happens in this particular circumstances, it makes a lot more sense to do remote court hearings because we have people with defined and significant transportation issues. So requiring them to find money to pay an Uber driver or a Lyft, or find a sitter for their kids, or skip a day at work. I mean, we could do these things on lunch breaks. We could do these things in a way where there's even been, if you take a look, all of our court cases are on YouTube. If you take a look at our docket, you'll see there'll be times where I have somebody in Operation Drive where they're cutting hair because that's one of their business. And I'll say, okay, your court case is going to be up in a couple minutes. Keep cutting hair. We'll let you know when you're up. All right? Because again, this is about meeting people where they're at. So then once they get to the pretrial stage, they've had a personal bond, they're appearing remotely, well then our MIDC staff they're all properly trained on potential consequences. So our prosecutors, our defense attorneys, they all know, read the driving record. Let's figure out if we're going to come up with a resolution, is there going to be continuing driving sanctions as a result of this? And if so, is that what we want? All right, so do you want this person to have an extended year of a suspension? If so, then fine. But if not, then let's make sure that we come up with a resolution that's appropriate. So oftentimes our prosecutors will come up with a non-abstractable offense. So for example, driving while license suspended, that carries with it a maximum fine of $500 plus court costs and state costs, and or up to 93 days in jail. Then there's a non-abstractable offense of allowing an unlicensed person to drive that's often used, at least by our prosecutors, which does not go on their driving record, but carries the same fine and the same potential jail sentence. So in essence, if a person blows us off, or if they have a continued disinterest in getting their license, well, if you want to go high fines and costs, you still have that option. If you want to go the jail route, you still have that option. And the reality is that you haven't, even by going to the non-abstractable offense, if they're an individual who's not interested in getting their license is going to continue to be suspended anyway. So there's been no substantial break given to the person who is the person who wants to keep driving in an unsafe manner. That person is going to be in trouble no matter what. But the person who actually has a chance to have their license restored, that plea bargain could mean everything. And so at that moment, what's going to happen is they're going to be placed in our Operation Drive program. Now, there are some judges who would get concerned about, because of the length of time it takes to get their license back, okay, well, judges get evaluated on case age rates, how long it takes to get a case done. Well, once a plea is taken, the clock stops. So for those judges who are hesitant on that, that's no longer an issue. The clock stops, the case no longer ages as far as the way our state keeps track of case age rates. And then what we do is we delay the sentence. So there's a statute that allows judges to delay sentences, and my goal then at that point in time is, instead of imposing high fines and costs right from the outset, I'm not going to assess them any costs. If they have money in their pocket, I say, go take care of this other issue, this other court, this other Secretary of State fee. Go take care of that first. We'll wait. And when we put them in the program, we also send them this letter, which I think was provided to everybody. And we make it clear, one, whatever category you fall into, this program will work for you. All right, whatever category, whether it's even a revoked license or suspended license or never obtained, we can figure out a way to manage this. And then we give them a very clear-cut description of the way it's going to go down. And highlighted in yellow is, you will not go to jail as long as you show up. If you show up and participate, you can go into that court date knowing that you are not going to go to jail. All right, that is a huge incentive to get those individuals who are in our program, who, again, you look at their criminal record and all there is traffic. There's no violent acts, there's no drunk drivings or reckless drivings. These are individuals who we're trying to work and get their license back. And if we do, they're not in the court system. So once they receive these letters, they also have phone numbers for our MIDC attorneys. So we'll set our sentencing out like 90 days to begin with, and we give them the information so they could start calling the attorneys in advance. At the time of the plea, and this is a fantastic reality, which is hard for me to describe, and I guess I can only say, if you have a few minutes and you want to hop into one of our court dates, feel free. I can give anybody the Zoom information here. But when Judge Kolakowski, my co-judge, and myself, when we take a plea on a driving while license suspended and it's reduced down to an allowing, and at the end of the plea, we tell them, okay, I'm looking at your driver's record right now. You got no proof of insurance over in Warren you got to go take care of. And when you get done with that, you'll have a $125 reinstatement fee at the Secretary of State, but you're not that far from getting your license. People are smiling. It's an odd phenomenon to have people smiling on the day they're entering a plea. But that happens in our court regularly. And so Once we get them to, we give them that action item at sentencing, and then we see them at sentencing, and again, my response to them always is, life gets in the way, you might not be able to get all these things done, but just show up, give us an update. Sometimes that update is, I made a court date. Sometimes that update is, I found out how much I owe. But I'm looking for forward progress. And realistically, some of these challenges that we've uncovered, I mean, if Joe Citizen knew the different barriers that exist out there for people trying to get their license that nobody knows about. I mean, there's a bill that Representative McGinnis put forward that's passed the House, that's through the Senate Transportation Committee. I think it came out of committee unanimously, and it's before the Senate right now, House Bill 5103. During my program, we uncovered this law, 257, MCL 257, 303G. And it basically sets up that if you are unlicensed in the state of Michigan and you pick up any 2 traffic offenses before your first application, then you're barred for 3 years. It could be anything. I mean, if you get a drunk driving in the state of Michigan, first offense drunk driving, you're suspended for 30 days. Get your license back. All right? You get a second offense drunk driving, your license is gone for a year. But if you're unlicensed and you pick up a speeding ticket and no license on person and they both hit your record, we'll see you in 3 years. We'll see you in 3 years. That law is still on the books. And I would never have known about it but for our Operation Drive program. Or the amount of people who have suspensions because they have an old civil judgment, like a lawsuit that was out against them. Well, their license is suspended, and so then they're at the whim of whatever the plaintiff in that case is willing to do as far as a payment plan. All right, these are all little nooks and crannies. Here's one. Let's say someone gets a driving while license suspended in a particular community, and they realize it's only 1 ticket. You only have to pay 1 ticket. And they go in and they pay that ticket and they restore their license. And then they go in, and they're not in a program like ours, and they just plea on the nose, being a good citizen, they acknowledge what they did, they pled to the driving while license suspended. Well, then the Secretary of State will go back in time and say, all right, on the date that this happened, you might be licensed now, but on the date this happened, you weren't. So that license you just got, we're gonna take it away for 30 days. And then in order to get it back, you gotta pay another $125. So these are all the things that have been uncovered, this and then some. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we've uncovered in our program. But the wonderful thing about this is at the end, by providing structure, much like a sobriety court program, we have regular reviews, all right? Not as frequently, obviously the need is different, but we do regular reviews. We give them action items, so we encourage, so structure, encouragement, and information, really, because most of the people that don't have their license, they don't even know where to start. So we give them the information, and by doing so, we have had fantastic results. I mean, I think the letter says 1,500. The fact sheet that I gave you is 1,562. The information that I ran as of today is, as of right now, since March of 2016, when we started keeping stats, we were at 1,587 licenses restored. Those are individuals that came into this court with traffic misdemeanors and now have valid licenses. Now, I think what's important to remember is we're one district court. Yeah, we're a busy court, but we're one. I mean, there's over 100 district courts. I mean, imagine if this was something that was available for courts, especially when you're talking about some of our major urban areas, but realistically, I would think even in some of the outstate areas, transportation is even more of a challenge. So this is something that I believe is beneficial and really rewarding. It's what we're supposed to be doing as public servants, identifying issues. We have the ability to make change in this way. So I have a couple of videos that I would love to share with the committee to give you a chance to see what we do at the end. So at the end, when someone completes their program, we will substantially reduce their fines and costs. In certain circumstances, we might even waive them altogether, but we'll reduce the fines and costs. So then always the concern is, well, I mean, what about those funding units and what they're going to wonder about, where they're going to get the money and all that? Well, remember, courts, we're not collection agencies. But my argument is, a fine is not a punishment until it's collected. All right, so I get the idea with that. But, 10 years ago when they were doing these cases, you'd see courts that would do 90 days in jail, or $900 and 90 days in jail. And people would just pick the jail. Fortunately, we've moved across past that. But there are still courts that will put people in jail for 30, 60, 90 days for a no license charge. I mean, there have been courts that I've worked with people in our program. I'll say, well, take care of all of your tickets, and then my hope is that when you go into this court, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And I've seen people, and it's heartbreaking. They've paid every single ticket. The last ticket they go to this court, and they get 90 days in jail. I had somebody almost lost their business because of it, after they've done everything they're supposed to do. But what we do in those circumstances is, yes, we reduce fines and costs, but guess what? The person who's got this reduced fines and costs, they're in a way better position to actually pay the fine because they now have a car and a job. And so, yes, this one court may assess $900 they may never see, but our $150, $200, that gets collected. And it's an appropriate fine, and it's also an appropriate reward for a person who finishes off this program. So I have, let's see here. All right, Mr.
I've got a list of people to call.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cole, we'll
Yes.
always leave the door open for somebody who wants to come in and see us, especially after it's my understanding that Mr. Cole has a full and valid license. Is that true? Just to preface this was not Mr. Cole's court day. His court date was set in advance. We do Operation Drive every Thursday afternoon, and our program participants know it. And we tell them, even if your court date's set several months down the road, if you have your license, come on in. Come on in on our docket. We'll find the file. Rep. Wilson, Stotson, that you were there when it happened. He was not on our docket. How many people do you know will show up months in advance for a court date, excited about something that's just happened in their life? He showed up not on his court date because he wanted us to see his new and valid license.
Yes, that's correct.
So, and this one, and this license that's still warm. I mean, March 10th. All right, that's right hot out of the oven. So, Mr. Cole, I'm so pleased for you. How, what was it like to get your license back?
I want to say it was, I don't know, man. It was surreal in a way because I mean I ain't had a license and I ain't trying to like throw no shade on myself, but I haven't had a license in a long time. So, and part of my business it involves me driving. So, this program has been very important on helping me accomplish that. So, I don't even think I smiled because it was still surreal when I took the picture. I think I was still in disbelief a little bit. I think I was still a little bit in a disbelief, but I was able to get it done. So.
Wow, I'm really happy for you, sir. This is a big deal. This is a big day, and the fact that you respect this program enough that you would you want to come in and tell us right away. You want to come in and see us right away. That's fantastic, Mr. Angott. We've been with Mr. Cole's at least certainly has been with me since 2022, and we've been battling and working through this, and for him to see this through all the way to the end, says a lot about you, sir. It does. It really does.
Judge, I've got Harold. I've got text going back to September of 2022 with you. You've always been responsive. This has been your mission. And a year and a half later, this is what it's all about. You just stayed the course. You wanted it as much as we wanted it for you, and that's what makes this work. So thank you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I got the paper right here. It's kind of hard keeping this kind of crispy, man, because I'm ready. I need the hard copy, so I ain't got to keep this paper like a couple more wrinkles, and it's probably gonna be over with. But I'm keeping it crispy. I'm trying to keep it in good shape until my actual card come in the mail, which I was at the Secretary of State yesterday. I think he said I should get it next week. But I'm gonna be keeping a lookout for the mail until then. Hopefully, it comes today.
Well, just for your own peace of mind too, Mr. Cole. Yes, I'm excited for you to get the hard copy as well. But if you ever had, from this moment going forward, if you had any interaction with law enforcement, for example, I'm looking at your driving record. So if they pulled it up, it would say a valid license. So you don't have to, make sure you carry that around. I'm not saying don't carry that around.
Right.
I'm just saying if you're worried, like if there's a coffee stain on it, or if it doesn't look real, if it gets too wrinkly, everything that's on the driving record about Harold Cole says this guy's legit.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So-
Yeah, I didn't know that, so I'm glad to know that now. I'm still gonna keep it in my pocket, but I'm glad to know that though.
Well, I'm gonna first I'm gonna salute you, Mr. Cole. Well done. Congratulations on getting your license. We're a little
Thank
happy
you.
for that. Nice
Thank you.
job.
I appreciate you
All right.
guys, man. Thank you.
And I am going to reduce his fines and costs. Let me start first with the old Berkeley case, which was an allowing on that file. I will note that Mr. Cole has a license. And the max fine on that one being $500. I'll set it at 0. State of Michigan, the court costs I'll set at 0. I'll simply set the 125 state of Michigan costs. So I've kept that about as low as I can for you. I will of course authorize a payment plan. And on the, let's see here, on the Royal, this is another Berkeley ticket. So and we have another Berkeley one. On this one, let's see here. On the allowing a licensed person to drive, I will set that again. Set the $500 fine at 0, court costs at 0, and the state of Michigan costs at 125. There was also an expired plates ticket that's 130. So I've kept this just about as low as I can for you because frankly you deserve it. And I've authorized a long-term payment plan. And Mr. Cole, I hope this means great, fantastic success for you in the future. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys a lot, man. This I think somebody else stated, I think you guys are the only court that offers something like this. Actually, other courts should probably take a little note from you guys because it's a lot of people that actually really want their license. And if they had the other courts had the same program you have, it'd probably be less driving on suspended license people out here than people that is driving on suspended license. So this program has been very helpful for me for sure. So I appreciate it.
Mr. Cole, you have no idea how important and timely your remarks are. I've gotten it so.
I think that was Rep. Wilson in the background right there because we was in. So, and then one more just to, and I appreciate everyone's time on this. This one's pretty meaningful because just to give you some background on this, Ms. Singleton never had a license, 60 years old, and had lived a life where she had some significant substance abuse issues and had achieved sobriety, but just couldn't get on top of getting her license and had no help, had no assistance. And then she came into our program and she ran into some of the issues related to that 303G law. And our program worked hard to help her in other courts. We worked with St. Clair Shores Court. We worked with 36th District Court in Detroit. And we were able to get her to be in a position where she could actually get her license. But she had seen some significant heartbreak along the way. But through this license, she got the one thing that she was fighting so hard to get, and she got a job. And you'll get a sense of just how much it meant to her.
Who's that on the screen there?
Yeah, I know who
Who's
I
that girl?
am. The happiest woman on the planet. Just look at it, Judge. Just look at it. Just look at it. Ain't that beautiful? That is just beautiful. I'm so in love with y'all, it don't make no sense. 99
all right,
years
so
old, but I got them.
Let's call Miss Singleton's case and do this all official like. So
It's official.
22-00-264 people versus Sheila Singleton.
Your Honor, Elizabeth Schiavelli, proudly on behalf of the wonderful Sheila Singleton. Today is a great day, Judge. She's already flashed her phone at you showing that valid driver's license. So, congratulations.
Can we just?
There's so much more I need to say.
I was gonna say we do need to really spell out what Miss Singleton has gone through, what she has endured, what she has overcome, because Miss Singleton has always been an open book to me. From the moment she came in, she talked about the fact that she's at her age she did not ever had a license. she was, certainly frustrated about that reality, but there were periods in her life where she had to battle some real demons, and she went through a real hard road. But she, on a day-to-day basis, has been in recovery and is proud of it, and has maintained her sobriety and her new way of life. And now that she picked up all of the pieces of her life and is building something of purpose, of consequence, she set about the task of getting a license, because so many people take that for granted. All right. But that was just another symbol of this new life she had built. And she was willing to do whatever it took to do it all the right way. She paid off all her tickets. She cleared everything up. But because of that law that we're working so hard to change, she was denied. And not just denied in a way that many other people would just walk away and say, forget it. It's not worth it. It's never going to happen. The way that she went and took a test, she actually took a test, passed the test, and then, like a thief in the night, it was taken from her. Because she was then told, because of this law, she couldn't get a license. And to be fair, Miss Singleton was not happy and expressed her unhappiness on that day. But at the same point in time, she still showed up to this program. She didn't give up on this program. She didn't walk away from this program. She hung with us. And we stayed steadfast on trying to see what we could do differently. And this is the one where Judge Williams in 36th District Court helped us out, right? Yeah. I'm going to send him a copy of this video, because he has to take ownership of this as well. Because if we didn't have an ally in Judge Larry Williams, we would not have been able to get that case moved. And Mr. Engot, you were the one that went down there, right?
Judge, I have to say this. Sheila at one point was so frustrated. And it was after the Secretary of State said, take the test, give us your money. She passed it. And then they said, oh, just kidding. You can't get what you want. And she said,
you can't get your money back.
She said, I'm giving up. She actually said those words. And if I would have believed that, this program would have been over, because Sheila, and you define what this is all about. You have been amazing. So there, I said my 2 cents. And yes, Judge Williams in this, and I really hope that he gets the credit, and you remember him, Sheila, because
I will.
We have friends in this business, and we built it. It's because of cases like yours where we can go down and say, listen, this is who we have before you. This is somebody who has changed her life, done a whole 180 degrees. She's sang for us in the past.
So yeah, so basically what I was really pleased with was that, we were running into a brick wall. So we called I called Judge Williams, and he said, I can see her tomorrow. And and Mr. Engot moved his schedule. Miss Singleton made herself available, and we got that done. And so then all we needed was a couple weeks.
See, and that's the unique thing about our program, is that we can be flexible and responsive. So we can contact another court, like we did in this one, and said, hey, there's a unique issue going on with your court. Now, again, there's no, it's not like the court is being a lawyer for her, but we're making sure that they get the right information, because people don't even know where they need to go, what they need to do. And so in this case, we called Judge Williams, who is a great ally, and I want to give him a lot of credit on this one. And he made sure that she was seen the next day, and so that this court case that was holding her up was set aside.
Get the permit, do all that kind of stuff. And what a Christmas present. December 26th, Sheila Singleton goes in. She completes her road test, and she has a valid license. Miss Singleton, please tell me it's been wonderful.
Judge, I can't even express to you how happy I am. And not only did I get my license, or you all are responsible for my license, helping me get my license.
Some of the challenges with Zoom,
it's taking me to get my license, but I also got a job.
See?
And because of those licenses, I was able to go to work. And that makes me so happy, because it's bad when you're an anything of an addict and there's nothing to do. And through my license, I can move with sense. I don't have to look behind my back, over my shoulder. And that's basically all because of you all. It's no basically, it is because of you, Judge, both of my attorneys. I just really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you guys keep doing what you're doing, because there is more like me that really want to do something, that really desires change. And through you all, I found it, and I'm keeping it. I don't know what y'all gonna do, the rest of y'all, but I'm keeping mine. And I want to say one more thing. I just wanna thank you three, and you two, Judge in Detroit.
Oh, thank you so much.
So now, yes, these are two very powerful examples, but we have 1,587 examples. I just picked two because we do have time limits here. I mean, in conclusion, my hope here is just so that you take a look at what we're doing at the 44th District Court and look for opportunities to assist us in expanding to those courts that are interested in participating, having important conversations with your own local district judges as to how they are addressing traffic misdemeanors and individuals with suspended licenses in your own communities. My team and I are ready to meet with anyone, provide training to anyone who shares this idea that it is time to be more than a hand in the pocket and an impediment to a person's desire to be free of the virtual prison that absolutely exists for anybody in our state without a license. And I know we've got a couple other judges, I think, that are here too that want to speak, but I'm also available for any questions.
Thank you, Judge Meinecke. Powerful testimony, especially from the participants in the program. 1,587 licenses restored. Have you ever had a time where you had to remove any participants from the program, or a participant wasn't keeping forward progress?
Absolutely. It's, you know, we are a patient lot, to be sure, but when we see someone who, you know, is repeatedly not appearing, not really making any movement or any action on even the most basic task, like making a phone call, getting the information, then yes, then they'll be removed from the program and they won't have the benefit of the reduced fines and costs. And there are some very few circumstances, let's say, for example, we find someone who's got multiple drinking and driving offenses, so their suspension, their revocation's a 5-year period. Well, we can't wait that out. That's unfortunately just too long. And, you know, we give them the information that they need and the direction that they need, but there are certainly circumstances where we do have to remove somebody from the program.
Thank you. I know we have 2 other judges on Zoom, and I know their time is limited also. I want to allow them to just have their testimony, allow them to speak, and then we're going to open up to our committee members for some questions. So I think we first up, Judge Reeds, are you there?
Yes, I am. I just unmuted myself, so hopefully you can see me.
Yep, we see you. Go ahead.
I really appreciate the opportunity to appear in front of this committee. And I want to thank Judge Meinecke for letting us know that this was going to happen so that we could kind of jump in last minute. I apologize we don't have any slideshow or any presentation or videos like he did, but I think that he covered all of the concepts very well. In our court, which is the second biggest district court in Michigan, the 52nd, we have 4 divisions in Oakland County and 10 judges collectively. And so Judge McGinnis, who's going to speak here shortly, brought to my attention once I became the chief judge that she wanted to engage in a program similar to what Judge Meinecke was doing, because she and I share ideas about trying to be progressive and trying to be a community-related court. And that's in line with what Judge Meinecke's philosophy is in many ways as well. And so we started discussions about that. We spoke with him. We watched his court in action. And there are so many good things that are coming out of this program that we very much intend to have a similar type program in the 52nd District Court. And it won't be exactly the same as his, because we have several logistical issues that will require more personnel. We have a much higher volume with 10 judges than they do with 2. But we think that we can do something that will be helpful to the community, engage in rehabilitation, which is one of the things that the law tells us as judges we're supposed to look at. And that's really what Judge Meinecke is doing, is in a rehabilitative mindset. He's trying to help these people get to a point where they're not going to be recidivists. And recidivism is another thing that we as judges are supposed to look at and try to work on. And when we look at these offenses, which are nonviolent, that's a totally appropriate thing. And it's something that actually I think we're very excited about. And I know Judge McGinnis is very, very interested in beginning a pilot program. We'd like to do that as soon as we, have appropriate funding and can logistically do all of the legwork that Judge Meinecke referenced, like speaking to other stakeholders, prosecutors, and so on. So we want to do it. I know that's really not what necessarily what the topic was today, to talk about the 52nd District Court, but we hope that as the second biggest court in Michigan, we might be able to continue to work in the vein and the bent that Judge Meinecke has been, and try to encourage other courts across the state, if it works for us too, to maybe continue to expand this type of program, which would be good for everybody in the state. And that's really all I had. If you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them. But I also want to make sure Judge McGinnis has time to speak. So,
Thank you, Judge Reed. The Honorable Judge McGinnis, you can go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maureen McGinnis. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. I am the presiding judge at the 52nd District Court, 4th Division here in Troy, Michigan. And I always find it difficult to follow Judge Meinecke and Judge Reed's anytime that I have to provide information about a topic, because they usually both do an excellent job of presenting the issues at hand and explaining them. But I thought it was important for me to participate today, mostly to show my support for Judge Meinecke. I have been a fan of him in the work that he does as a district court judge since before my time on the bench. And I continue to be impressed by his work ethic, his out-of-the-box thinking, and really specifically with this program that he has created through Operation Drive. I feel like I am here today mainly as a witness to attest to the success of the program. I have seen him in action. I've sat behind the scenes while both him and Judge Kolakowski have presided over the program. I've observed it on Zoom. And as a district court judge in a neighboring community, I've actually seen the success of their program with many of the people that appear before me in my courtroom. I am confident when I have people that are appearing before me in my program that have had an opportunity to participate in Operation Drive, that they are going to be successful and that they're going to have a true opportunity to restore their license and get back to a position where they can stop this sometimes never-ending cycle of losing their license, picking up new convictions, serving time in jail, being on probation. So I've seen the success of this program in many facets since it started and during my time on the bench. So I feel like I am here to really provide a witness statement about what this program can do. I also think that it's very important for him to be here today to educate on a statewide level, so that you in your own communities can go back to your communities, understand the true need that you have to help address some of these issues, educate your district court judges, connect them with the program that Judge Meinecke has in place, so that we can figure out a way to expand the program. I think that Judge Meinecke and his reputation that he's created through the program at this point gets a lot of access to try to make things happen for people in the program. Not necessarily him, but the attorneys and staff that he has that work within the program have really made a name for themselves. And so that has helped to resolve things that need to be resolved for participants. But expanding this program so that an Operation Drive-like program is in district courts throughout the state will only increase the amount of success that people have in restoring their licenses. So I've been very interested in trying to recreate, or just to put it very bluntly, copy the hard work that Judge Meinecke has put into creating his program in our court here, and hopefully at some point in the larger 52nd District Court, because I think that that's going to be the key to true success that goes across the state to make the differences that you've heard about today in his community and the people that have participated in his program, to duplicate that across the state. So I just wanted to make sure that you as a committee had an understanding that other courts and jurisdictions have spent time looking at this program, are invested in trying to create something similar within their own courts, so that we can work together. I think it's really important if we do this as well, because it will highlight the importance of having educated legal representation on these issues. So you heard Judge Meinecke talk about the attorneys that have participated in this program with him for many years. They are top notch. They are dedicated to this cause. They spend a ton of time working with the clients both during the court sessions and before. They are well educated on the impact that all of these things have on someone's driver's license, and they give them real, accurate information so that they can make informed decisions, and it makes a world of difference. So by creating programs like this, which will require legal representation that is highly educated in this area, is going to improve the outcome overall. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to be here today to support Judge Meinecke, make sure that he's acknowledged for the hard work that he's doing, and so that Chief Judge Reeds and I can give you a solid example of a court that is looking to do expand the program so that we can continue to see positive results. Think about the out-of-the-box solutions that are required here. We all know that the law provides us for an opportunity to put people in jail for these offenses. Practically speaking, I've been on the bench for over 8 years now. Putting someone in jail for driving a license suspended case, in my experience, has not solved the problems that we're seeking to solve. It is an option, but there are many other options, and this program allows us to really right-size the response that should be provided, and for someone that needs the support and is willing to do the work so that they can get to being a licensed driver and an insured driver, all things that impact all of the citizens across the state of Michigan when people don't do these things. This is a program that really provides the flexibility that we need to provide solutions, no matter what the situation is that is appearing before us and the facts and the circumstances that led someone to court. So I appreciate the time today. Any questions that you have for me, happy to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge Reeds and McGinnis, for attending and bringing your perspective via Zoom. We'll open up to the committee members now, starting with Representative Leitner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here today. I'm a former paralegal, so we dealt with this all the time. But I just have a couple clarity questions on, so when you talked about being a hybrid, so with a lot of our other specialty courts, we have, judges that have district court and circuit court power, basically. So do you have that authority or no?
When I say hybrid, I only mean we're a hybrid court in that we do both in-person hearings and remote hearings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the only way.
Well, that leads into my next question. So it basically sounds like we could get rid of the administrative law judges and the Secretary of State and just give you guys the authority, since you guys have a better relationship with your, I'm going to call them clients. But anyway, what I'm curious about is, one of the huge challenges that I've seen with a lot of our clients personally, family members, whatever, is, I guess, in my opinion, the overreach with the Secretary of State. So when you have these issues with license suspensions, like you reference a second offense, right? So you lose it for a year. Well, it's not just a year. It can be 5 years, because the Secretary of State's administrative law judges have the authority to continue, like the PBT, I forget the name of it. Interlock. Even if it's not necessarily the fault of the person, because they do have deficiencies in that system itself. So kind of the trigger mechanism is, say that device fails and you miss your appointment that morning or whatever, the blow. Right. And the default with Secretary of State is it revokes your license already. It revokes it without a hearing. And then 6-8 weeks down the road, then you get a hearing. In the meantime, our poor client gets a driving while license suspended because the device malfunctioned. They took it in, and you can prove it. And the problem I have is with working with that office as opposed to the actual courts who impose the penalties for something, is these people keep getting punished time after time after time beyond what the statutory penalty is. because of the Secretary of State's office. So I appreciate your guys' work in those challenges, but I'm just curious how that works, because you don't have, until they have their hearing and then somebody appeals to circuit court, you don't necessarily have the authority to say that license is reinstated without Secretary of State, like, say, for that second offense. So I'm just curious how that process,
And that's why,
what it actually looks like.
and that's why if you look at our welcome letter, people fall into different categories, and one of those includes the people who have a revoked license. Now, I will say, throughout this process, we have a great relationship with the Secretary of State. They have been an organization that we have reached out to when we don't understand, like you said, some of these different barriers, why they're there. They actually are partners in our effort to lift that one law that we've been talking about. But we don't get involved with the administrative law process. The way it works for us, if we have somebody who has a second, and like the representative said, you're revoked for a year if you have a second drunk driving. You're revoked for a year. But it's not like when that year comes up, you're done and you're back on the road, because there's a process that you have to go through. And so when we have somebody who's revoked, what's really interesting is that we'll have somebody who's served their 1 year revocation, and they just either felt overwhelmed by the process. In some circumstances, they continued the drinking and driving process or decision making, but oftentimes they have sat on this for so a 1 year revocation has turned into a 15-year or a 16-year revocation. And so what we do, if we have that type of situation, if they're revoked, is that we then, and our attorneys will then educate them on the process, because in the end, if they are going to get their full and valid license back, we want to make sure that they're ready and that they're sober and they're not a risk to drink and drive again. Our program is not designed to make it easier for a person who's a chronic drunk driver to get back on the roadway. Our process is to make sure that they go through that fair evaluation. And so
like getting the assessment, getting the letters recommendation, all of that stuff, and the request, the hearing request. Okay.
We educate the individual, and then again, a lot of times that requires private counsel. So we have a list of private counsel that we can refer them to, and also because that costs a lot of money. Again, that makes it so crucial that we delay all of our payments here so that they can save up the money so that they can pay for that process. So what we'll do in that situation, representatives, will get them to the point where they have a hearing. Now, at the hearing, at that point in time, one would think that we have prepped them more than a lot of people who go in for that hearing. We've got them in the best possible position to be eligible to get that decision. Now, in that moment, one of the key points that they'll ask, the administrative law judge will ask, do you have any pending cases? So it doesn't make sense for our case to continue to keep pending. So what I'll do is we get the fact that they have a hearing date, and then we'll get them the reduction in fines and costs because we've got them as close as possible to a license. But we've had great success rates when we get them to that point, because they're not just trying on their own to haphazardly get a substance abuse evaluation. They're doing it the right way with the right guidance so they can be properly vetted. And they have great success as a result of that. Now, when you're talking about a situation where someone has a driving while license revoked after they've had, after they've been waiting for, they've had a positive blow, but it wasn't a positive blow, but they have to wait for the hearing to determine that their license should be reinstated, and they pick up that charge in our community. Well, that's what the work with the prosecutor's office is so helpful. And so what we'll do in that situation is they often will offer them a non-abstractable offense, because if they get an abstractable offense, then they definitely are going to lose their license, and the revocation is going to go on for an extended period of time. So they'll give them the reduction, and then we'll follow through. And we'll make sure that they go to that hearing, that it is demonstrated that they didn't have a positive alcohol drinking event. And then when that's done, we give them the reduction of fines and costs, and that person moves forward with hopefully earning their full license.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing for the communities.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Representative Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to also thank Judge Reeds, Judge McGinnis, and especially thank you, Judge Meinecke, for all the work that you've been doing, and just like being out in the community. Your reputation is amazing because of programs like this, and I just really want to thank you for the work that you've done on this in particular, and any and all problem-solving courts, both yourself and Judge Kolakowski, and also want to thank the late Judge Wittenberg as well for his work on these sorts of programs. I am just curious, and I might have missed it, but I think all of our problem-solving courts that we have in this state serve an amazing and important purpose, because as you've pointed out time and time again, and was shared in the videos that you shared, with perfect examples of how often, you know, someone may make a mistake or a couple of mistakes and end up with this major barrier that prevents them from being able to access employment, access transportation, access other essential things that they need. And oftentimes it's almost like more bureaucratic barriers than it is necessarily like, you know, making sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do to make sure it's safe for them to be back on the road. And it can be very overwhelming. So it's wonderful to see a program like this that really takes the time to work through those individual barriers one-on-one with folks and make sure that those barriers are removed or reduced so that people have a clear pathway to get back to where they need to be. Can you kind of talk about, and again, I may have missed this, the history of where this idea for Operation Drive originated, and if there are anything that we can do in the legislature to help expand these sorts of opportunities, in addition to additional funding, any other things that we can do in the legislature to help spread these opportunities across the state?
Right. Thank you so much for your kind words. As everybody at this table, having achieved, you know, certain levels of professional accomplishment, you all know that anything that we've achieved has been the product of, you know, so many individuals who have had our back, who have believed in us and our ideas, and we all can point out different individuals who have motivated us to this moment and helped us to get to where we're at. This program rests not just on my shoulders, but I look across the board, my incredible staff at the court and what they do and what they're willing to do on a day-to-day basis to serve the community. We have 3 extremely accomplished, brilliant, passionate MIDC counsel, John Angot, Elizabeth Chappelli, Melissa Krauskopf. The amount of time, energy, and effort they spend, the texts, the phone calls, they make sure people get to court, they make sure people know what they need to do, and most importantly, they fight for them, they care for them. I mean, that they are absolutely responsible for any successes that we have. And then and I'm so glad you mentioned my late colleague, Jamie Wittenberg, absolutely a tremendous leader and a great supporter for me in this. In fact, when he was on the bench, he saw the program and he would feed his driving while license suspended cases into the program. And then we have another great leader that comes in, joining in his legacy, and Judge Kolakowski, who has joined me in this effort. And the both of us have basically tag teamed this, relieving some of the burden off of me and giving him an opportunity to make this program even greater. And my court administrator, and my judicial assistant who goes through all this. I mean, this program is the product of everybody coming together, the prosecutors who are willing to actually see beyond the crime that is charged. Like, this is what happens when good people come together for an idea that is good. Remarkable accomplishments occur. And so as far as what more can be done, I definitely want to salute, and it's been absolutely crucial, the role that the legislature has played in making our job that much easier. When we had to deal with driver's responsibility fees, it was hard for me to get people to even want to try. We're talking people would have like $3,000, $4,000. It was hard for me to convince them of that. And it ended up being really a regressive tax on the poor. That's what it was. And so to see this body act in that way was crucial. And then in 2021, to reduce the amount of cases that would suspend somebody's license. I would certainly love this body to reevaluate whether or not it's absolutely necessary to suspend somebody's license on a no-proof insurance ticket or for a civil judgment, because in the end, how are we going to get people to actually afford insurance if they can't work? If you saw. When I first started the program, I would have somebody who would have 38 suspensions on their license. And what this body did was make it so that it was only like 7 suspensions on their license, but all 7 of them are no proof of insurance. So what's really interesting is that, if someone doesn't pay a high speeding ticket, that won't suspend their license, but a no proof of insurance will. So that would go a long way towards helping us, because we do have the ability to follow through. Like my biggest fear, if from the law and order perspective is, okay, well, what if this person, you give these opportunities and they bail? Well, we still can suspend their license. We still can issue warrants. We can still give them heavy penalties if they're not interested. And I do think that there's this misconception about individuals who have picked up these, that they don't have the capacity to show up for court. I mean, Mr. Cole was with us for 1.5 years and made all his court dates. All right, that certainly flies in the face of this idea that a person is just disinclined to show up for court, or they're scofflaws, or they're not interested to follow through. Well, you got to give them a reason to show up. And what's really, I think, cool about our program is that we started to see this advent of road to restoration clinics from the Secretary of State. Well, that does require someone to have the initiative to go and show up, and that the location for this clinic has to be close to where they're at, because again, mobility issues. But if you think about it, our program, there are many road to restoration clinics that come to the person at their moment of highest crisis, when they're looking at potential criminal charges and potential even jail time or high fines and costs. And instead, what we do in that moment, instead of sort of being what they've become accustomed to and why they don't show up for court, we give them a different alternative. And by doing so, they show up, they follow through, and they get their licenses. So as far as a body goes, I think it's always a good idea to continue to evaluate the motor vehicle code and what's out there for suspensions. It would be nice, like for example, when we have those individuals who pick up a driving while license suspended and they go out and get their license, if they didn't get hammered with that 30-day suspension after they cleared it up, like an investigation of, hey, if they've cleared their license, do we really need to resuspend their license? Giving the Secretary of State authority to not have to impose that 30-day trailer would be helpful as well. But those are the types of things that I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there'll be 60 more when I walk out the door. I will.
Judge Reeds, you want to have something to say, respond to something?
Yes, I greatly apologize. Because we were a little last minute, this is in the middle of my felony docket, which I worked hard to get done, but I also have a court and school program over lunch that I have to leave for to make sure I'm not late for the middle schoolers. If I can just kind of jump in and kind of hit the question that was actually asked a little harder, what would be very helpful, and I'm happy to discuss this with Judge Meinecke and Judge McGinnis, along with any or all of you after this, pass a law for us so that if we get a program like this going, we have the authority to give a person a temporary restricted license while we let them help clear up the rest of their suspensions. So we can get them back on the road while they're in our program, similar to laws that have been passed and amended for our specialty courts, like we have a mental health court and a vet court and a sobriety court and a drug court in the 52nd. Give us the authority to give these people a license so we can get them temporarily on the road while we're working with them so they can be back to work, which will then allow them to get the money to help clear these tickets and fines. Right now, what we're doing is we're kind of doing it backwards. We're trying to work with them while they struggle to get to work. Pass that law for us, and that will help us immensely. And I apologize, I do have to leave, though. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Judge Reeds. Representative Mincer.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry, I do have a couple of questions. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I'd really like to invite you to come talk to Chief Judge Bearnut in Macomb County. But I just wondered, for the revoked license and suspended license, is there ever a time that you have somebody go back and take a driver safety class to maybe refresh themselves?
So we will do that in certain circumstances, especially with the relationship that we have with the prosecutor. Prosecutors oftentimes are going to be hesitant to offer a non-abstractable offense, say for like a speeding ticket or a driving while license suspended, if they're concerned about that person's driving record. So we invite, as part of any resolution that they have, that they must attend either a 4 or 8 hour driver's training, driver safety class. So that is definitely something that is part of and can be part of our program. And really we require, in those circumstances, if it's been part of the deal from the prosecutor, they got to finish it before they're done with us.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm sure you have it, but I wondered what kind of support level you're getting from the defense attorneys, prosecutors, and, like police chiefs, POAM, FOP, organizations like that, police organizations.
So we have, from the MIDC they are tremendous advocates in support of our program. I know they would love to be able to expand it to other courts. Whenever our local MIDC coordinator, John Engot, has ever asked for additional funding, this is a program they've always got behind, because really it's a problem solver. It will make it so that we have less driving while license suspended cases. That's kind of the point. You know, why do we have sobriety courts so we have less drinking and driving offenses? Why do we have drug courts so that we have less cases that are motivated by substance addiction? Why do we have this court? So that we have less people on the road with invalid or revoked or suspended licenses. So they are huge advocates. And then our prosecutor's office, our local prosecutors, Berkeley, our Berkeley prosecutor, our Royal Oak prosecutor, and our state of Michigan county prosecutor, they all are behind this, and they all have supported us in this endeavor. And then anytime that we've had discussions with this, you know, our police departments are in favor of anything that is going to reduce negative police-citizen interaction. All right, think about the times where we have tickets for providing false info to a police officer because they know they're suspended, they have warrants. Times that they've run from the police, they ran because they were suspended and they knew that they'd be arrested. Times where they've run through stoplights and people have been seriously harmed on a police chase. All could be avoided if we get people with a valid license, so that if those lights and sirens come up, they just pull over, just like anybody else. So so we've got a really good response. I haven't had a chance to speak directly with, you know, POAM and those organizations, but I would think that they would mirror what our local police departments feel about it, and that would be, it would make their job easier.
Thank you very much, and I'm interested to see what you're going to do to expand this program to other counties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Brixey.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. Thanks for your presentation. It looks like a really impressive program, and especially the results. You know, so often I think people think about our laws as having penalties and punishments, but really the goal, the overarching goal that we have is to quit having those infractions occurring, and then rehabilitate people, you know, if they do commit crimes or, you know, whatever. And I think there's a tendency for us sitting up here to sort of lose track of that rehabilitation aspect. And so, you know, kudos to you guys for coming up with a specialty court that aims to get these folks back on the road and becoming productive members of society. I have a relative who had a really long heroin addiction problem. And about 20 years ago, I remember my dad complaining to this young relative at the time that he didn't have a driver's license. And my dad kept after him and kept, like, taking him through all the steps that he needed to get that license back. And I'm happy to report he's been clean and sober for over 15 years. And that was a really crucial role in his recovery and his ability to be able to work and become a productive member of society again. So thanks for all your efforts. Appreciate it.
Pride is powerful. Restoring pride is absolutely crucial. You saw it with Miss Singleton. You saw what that meant. Like, we all take it for granted, but for people who don't have it and don't have it for years, to get it back. And just your comment actually reminded me of one more thing for Representative Weiss. A good evaluation on how we fund driver's education in general across the state, because there is once we did graduated licensing, there was basically an elimination of, shortly thereafter, 2004, we took driver's training out of the schools, and there is no independent funding for that. So, like, for my kids, I could afford segment 1, segment 2. We have a car, they can drive for 50 hours. So what was the result was we were having more trained, which is what we want. We were having more trained teen drivers, but less of them. And so instead, we're creating this pocket of individuals who couldn't afford it, and then they just start driving anyway, and they don't really see the need to go and get their license, because depending on the jurisdiction, if they get pulled over, it's a big deal in one jurisdiction, it's not a big deal in another. And so you get mixed messages, and then we just end up with this pocket of people who are, going through their 20s and into their 30s, never getting around to getting their license. So there's got to be some sort of funding opportunity, some way to apply for funding if you, fit a particular financial, economic demographic, and that you can get, the type of education that we want. Because the graduating program themselves, I felt like my kids were better trained than I was. Back we used to have, we get our permit at 15, you drive on the permit for a year, and who knows how often you're driving. So the graduating licensing works, but it just is not expansive enough because people can't afford it. So yeah, sorry, I want to make sure I got that in.
Thank you. I completely agree that is a huge need, and we've heard that from many others, so I appreciate you flagging that as well.
Judge McGinnis, you want to respond to one of the questions?
I appreciate it. I just wanted to throw something in. I know the question was directed mostly to Judge Meinecke about the level of support that they have from their local law enforcement or the prosecutors. And I can just say, from an outsider's perspective, so not even participating in that program or being a part of his jurisdiction in Royal Oak and Berkeley, the program that they have in their court has the respect of defense attorneys, prosecutors, and many people that are involved in the district court and the criminal justice system in general, because of the fact, because of the fact that the program is really successful. So he has a ton of support in his own community, but I can also attest to the fact that when we have a case in our court where someone is charged with driving while license suspended or another traffic offense, when the prosecutor learns, usually through the defense attorney, that the defendant that's appearing in front of me is also addressing a ticket that's outstanding or that they have in Royal Oak, and that they have been approved to participate in Operation Drive, it makes an impact on how the cases are handled in my court, not even having the program. So I just want to make sure that that's shared as well, that the support for the program is reaching even beyond what he gets to see in his own community. And I've seen it have an impact on how cases are resolved in my courtroom when everyone is aware that the person is in good standing in Operation Drive and really working towards obtaining a license through the program.
Thank you, Judge McGinnis, again for attending via Zoom today. Thank you, Judge Meinecke, for this presentation, driving all the way up. And I think it's a very important program that you have put together. I think most of the committee members can appreciate your forethought and a lot of the work that you put in to help our residents, our constituents. So hopefully the committee, as we deliberate over the next few weeks, we can come up with some ways to expand into other counties and other district courts and all that. So I don't think we have any absent members. I want to thank Representative Morgan for attending via Zoom as well. And so with that, the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Judiciary is adjourned.